You're listening to the Low Pressure Podcast, the podcast for skiers.
Presented by CMH Hillis Skiing and Peak Performance.
The Low Pressure Podcast is sponsored by CMH Hillis Skiing, where you can choose from 11 unique locations and experiences, including 4, 5, 6, and 7-day signature trips, the brand new single-day trips. You can do small groups with just you, 4 friends, and a guide, or the private and exclusive, where you get the whole place just to yourself. So find your next adventure at cmhheli.com. The Low Pressure Podcast is also sponsored by Peak Performance. There are many ways to make it down a mountain, but the best line is your line. And the adventure is there, so make it yours. Visit peakperformance.com and get the gear to unlock your free ride spirit. All right, well, we're started, man.
Sweet.
Thanks for coming, JR.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome to the LPP Studios and Low Pressure Podcast. And you told me that you are a listener of the show.
I am.
I love that.
Yeah.
I always find it super weird, but I love it. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it's funny to be sitting here now.
Yeah, right? Like,
because when I'm listening, it kind of feels like you're a part of the conversation. And then,
yeah. As you said, you listen to a bunch of podcasts. What is it that you like about them?
I think it's just easy to listen to.
Just something to have on.
I think, like I said, it just feels like you're engaged in the conversation. But
where do you listen? Like, what do you do when you listen to podcasts?
Usually working.
Like, what kind of work?
I've done past couple of years I was doing trail building, so just kind of sitting in a machine and listening. 8 to 10 hours a day. This year after Momentum I was doing irrigation here in Whistler. So
for what company?
Whistler Irrigation.
Oh yeah? Did you end up bleeding hours in the back here?
I did not.
No.
Someone else definitely did though.
Yeah, you're like, well, I've been to this house before.
Yeah,
that's cool. So you mentioned Momentum. You got a Momentum hat on. You're a digger for a bunch of years, right?
2 years. I did dig to ride before.
What's that? Like, just dig so you can ski for free?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Were you not coaching?
No, I did one session coaching, but
Mm-hmm.
I prefer the digging just so that I can ski more
And not have to worry about
yeah.
other people's kids and stuff? Or what?
Yeah, pretty much.
Is that
less babysitting more?
Is that not your jam?
Not as much as just shredding.
Yeah. All right, so you're pretty new on the scene. How old are you? 22?
I'm 23.
23? And we met like not long ago. I don't know if we met before IF3, did we?
I don't think so.
Maybe not.
Yeah, I think IF3 was kind of like.
Yeah, and then the QST.
Yeah, in van.
That's where it was. I think that's the QST thing, and then we had IF3. So I've seen you a handful in the last like month or so. But I've always known who you were. I've heard stories of who you are and what you get up to.
Hopefully good ones.
Yeah, mostly. Yeah.
Mostly.
No, they're all good. If they make you laugh, they're good.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm just teasing. So, just kind of getting. I like these episodes with people like yourself who are kind of just getting started,
right,
to kind of learn.
Yeah.
About who you are, but also like let people who are listening to find out who you are. So Let's start from the start, man.
Right.
Where are you from?
I'm from Rossland, BC.
Rossland, BC.
Yeah.
So how do you think you got here, where you are now?
I mean,
that's a pretty broad question.
Yeah,
it
is a broad question. I mean, when I was young, I was just going out and skiing. Like that's just what we did.
Mm-hmm.
Going up and. Basically, the parents could send us up there and
skiing. Red. Did you were you in like ski school or like race stuff or like a free ride club or anything like that? Or
no, not initially. Really, I was kind of in a bunch of sports. I was like playing hockey a bit, and I rode bikes and I skied. And yeah, when I was young, there was a local Mike Hopkins, and he was like professional biker, professional skier in the winter, and I just like totally idolized him as a grom. And
just like a local dude that shreds, and you're like, there's Mike Hopkins, like a local legend kind of guy.
Yeah, I mean he's fully like made a career out of biking. He kind of stopped skiing professionally and really just all on board with the biking, but he competed at Rampage. And
oh really?
Yeah, he was Yeah.
And that's kind of your inspiration for just like
Yeah,
wanting to do something cool with your life.
Yeah,
or
well,
like that, like live that kind of lifestyle.
We had like dirt jumps in Roslyn for biking, and the soccer field was right above them. So I was always just like going to soccer, but like just standing at the edge of the field, peering over the fence, like watching these guys ride. And I think there was a point where I just transitioned and didn't want to play hockey anymore and ski just all the time, like not give up any of my weekend for anything else. So
it's either one or the other. Hey, like there's
for
like
sure.
I played hockey growing up, and like I skied as well, but I lived in Vancouver, so it wasn't like I was living in a mountain town like Whistler or like Rossland or somewhere that has the hill right there.
Yeah.
So I'd go up 4 times a year, 5 times a year.
Yeah.
On specific weekends, or like a little bit more when I was in high school.
Yeah.
But that's about it, right? So it didn't really take away from playing hockey.
Yeah, yeah.
Where people don't realize it's like all hockey. If you're into hockey and you're into it, you're on the ice 4 or 5 times a week.
Yeah.
Right? And you got to get up at like 4 a.m. sometimes to go, because that's when your ice
absolutely.
times are for practices. And like, don't get me wrong, hockey's the best. I love it.
Yeah. It's fun.
But you can't really do both.
No.
And I can't think of anybody who does both.
No. I think financially for a lot of people too, it's like you kind of just got to choose one or the other. Like,
yeah, exactly. Like, which is more expensive, hockey or skiing?
Yeah, I have no idea, to be honest, but probably hockey. I don't know,
man, because you gotta pay for your ice time. You gotta pay for like jerseys. You gotta pay for equipment.
Yeah.
You got all of the travel if you're like going from place to place, fuel and time.
For sure.
But then there's skiing, and there's the lift passes, and then there's your skis, your boots, your bindings, all of your outerwear.
Yeah.
You get lunches for every day. There's travel to and back from the hillside. I don't know. That's an interesting question. I don't know. I don't know what it would be.
Yeah, I
don't know what it would be.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I wouldn't know.
So you grew up playing sports of all kinds.
Yeah.
And team sports and individual sports, but sitting on the soccer field looking down at the dirt jumps and playing hockey, thinking wishing you're up on the slopes. You kind of went more of like your own independent route.
Yeah, for sure. And once I started skiing, I was like pretty hooked. And then I think it was someone gave me a copy of Every Day's a Saturday, and once I had that, I was just like mind blown. I was like, holy, like this is the coolest. And seeing Dane in there, who's also from Rossland, like another just hometown hero, and like those Poor Boys movies were just like, I think that's what really ignited the
I love those stories when someone can like trace like the path of their life to a moment or to like a film or something like that. That's sweet.
Yeah.
So I told you, and I show everybody, I don't really write questions, but a couple notes. And I did have Dane as a note. Just says Dane. Because I know growing up in Rossland, like, so for a lot of people that don't know about Rossland, it's a small little town, Kootenays, right?
Yeah.
Right. Small little town in the Kootenays. Great mountain, steeps, great tree skiing.
Oh, yeah.
And it doesn't really get a lot of recognition, I don't think.
No.
But a lot of really influential people have come out of Rossland.
Yeah.
Right? You got your Jeff Schmucks. You got your Dane Tudors. You got your James Heim.
Yeah.
Right?
Shout out James.
Yeah, Heimer. You're one of your bosses now.
Yeah. TM.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like those are just 4 names that I could name quickly like that, right? So there's a lot of really influential people that come out of there.
Nancy Green.
Was she Rossland? I thought she was Sun Peaks.
She lives in Sun Peaks now, but she's originally from Rossland.
Oh, so she was also a Whistler, like big in Whistler too.
Right.
But she's a bit of a anti-climate change kook, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I don't think I want to really get into that.
Yeah,
but like,
fair.
I think
a whole another can of worms.
I learned about her when Protect Our Winters first launched.
Oh, yeah.
And then apparently she's a climate denier. From what I've heard, climate change denier, from what I've heard.
Yeah.
Nancy Green, for those of you who don't know who she is like a Canadian, I think, Olympic gold medalist from like the 60s in like alpine skiing.
Yeah.
So she was like one of Canada's like first like Olympic heroes.
Yeah.
And she's done a lot for skiing. But I found out from what I've learned, I think she's a bit of a climate kook.
Yeah, fair enough.
But whatever. But it doesn't take away from what she's been able to do, right?
Yeah.
So you got this little town, and you got someone like Dane Tudor.
Yeah.
And like Heimer, these guys that have like many years, poor boys, MSP.
Yeah.
Dane won Skier of the Year last year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm sure what he just like skiing on the hill and being like, oh my God, there he is. Or like you're at the grocery store and be like, oh my God, that's Dane Tudor or something like that. Like, did you get to know him when you're younger through skiing, or was he always just that guy that was kind of, you catch a glimpse of, or you knew he was from your town?
Yeah, I think I kind of knew he was from the town. When I was that young, he was kind of really like getting after it all the time. Like I think he was living in Revy at the time, like filming with TGR or Poor Boys or whoever it was. It wasn't until like a little later I became friends with Dane, and it wasn't even like a skiing thing. I think it was like I was going to the gym and he was going to the gym, and he kind of knew who I was, and we started just going to the gym together. And
oh yeah,
just it was like through the summer, like riding longboards and just riding bikes and going to the gym,
just hanging out with a new friend, right? Like,
yeah,
but he knew you were a skier.
Yeah, he definitely knew I was a skier, and he knew that I was obviously a fan,
right?
Younger, and
so instead of being like the cool guy Hollywooding you, he was like, oh, I know this kid. He's a good skier. He's a good kid. Like, come and hang out. Let me hang out with me. Let me show you how to do shit.
Yeah, exactly. He's been kind of a mentor for me. And giving me advice, and shout out Dane.
Very, very cool. And then like kind of full circle, you're in a film with him.
Yeah, that was real full circle, because
this last year's Feel Real. With Blank Collective.
Feel Real. We were both just out here for like a month in the spring.
Yeah, like together, or just happened to be here at the same time?
Yeah, well, we were both just trying to film with Blank, and he had his own spot, and I was kind of just like sleeping on ABM's floor and wherever I could find.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like,
and then
Alexi started having problem with his knee. Stan was hurt. ABM ended up being hurt. So it was kind of just me and Dane, really, that we're just going out. Like, kind of worked out well, because they just needed skiers to film, and me and Dane were here. So
you're just kind of taking advantage of an opportunity, really. It's
for sure.
And were you aware of that too? You're like, oh, okay, like I'm just gonna go and like, did you have conversations like, I'm gonna be in this film, or did you have a sponsor that was like, hey, we're paying for this guy to be in it, or were you just like, I'm gonna take advantage of just being in the right place at the right time, or just put in your dues?
I had been out in January. Basically, I looked at the forecast and saw that Whistler was getting like 2 feet, and I just texted Jeff Thomas, and I sent him a screenshot of the forecast, and I was like, I'll drive there. I'll be there tomorrow. I'll drive overnight. And he was basically like, all right, like, if you can be here in 2 days, like, you can come out with the Blank crew. So that was kind of the initial. And then,
and had you gone out with anybody from the crew before?
No, I kind of knew everyone and like had hung out with them.
And they'd be able to vouch for you a little bit. Like, he's a good dude. He can ski well.
Yeah, and I had filmed with Jeff before.
Okay, so
Jeff
that
knew
helps.
who I was.
Right.
Jeff Schmuck was definitely vouching for me.
He takes care of his Rossland kids, man.
For sure. So yeah, I'd filmed with them a bit, and then I basically was just like, I wanted more footage. I wanted more presence in the film, so I just came back out in the spring and was like, if I'm there, like, I'm sure I'll get days where like they just let me know, like, hey, you can come out on this day. It wasn't like necessarily like, oh, if you come out, we'll for sure film all these days. It was just like, I'm just gonna get there, and once
they've got their plan.
Yeah.
And then now you're like, okay, I'm just gonna be accessible, right?
Yeah.
Like, hey, like, I'm on call. Like I'm an on-call shift. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, oh, someone can't go out today. Someone's sled blew up. Someone hurt themselves.
Yeah.
You know.
And then I think because Dane was coming out here for like the month to film like a full part. Like,
right.
They were fully committed to filming him. So I think it also just worked conveniently. Like, he was just down for me to be out there. Like, me and him and Scotty was kind of just following us around, or we were out with Jeff building jumps.
So that's good too, and it's probably comfortable for you as well, right? Like, you're kind of getting your chance, right?
Yeah,
It's like from what I've heard of you, like it's been kind of your goal to be a professional skier since you were like a kid, correct?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Right?
Just be able to do it all the time. Like I just love skiing and I want to ski all the time. So
Right.
if I can put myself in a position where I can just ski all the time, like that's ideal. It's not so, I'm not looking to be famous or anything like that. I just genuinely want to ski as much as possible. So that's the best way to do it, I feel like.
Right. So, you've got this kind of like life path,
Yeah,
this goal, this mission in life to like ski and be as good of a skier as possible.
for sure.
And then I wonder if it's just the way that you've kind of slowly, intentionally or unintentionally manifested this. You know what I mean? Like, this is what I want to do. Like, I want to ski every day.
Yeah.
Oh, Dane Tudor is my hero. Oh, I'm at the gym. I'm maybe going to go have a chat with this guy.
Yeah.
You become friends with a guy like that. Then he's doing his thing. You kind of getting to know a few people. And then he's like, all right, no, this guy's good. And you just kind of put yourself in these situations
Yeah.
that kind of move forward
For
towards that goal, whether it's strictly like I don't think you're the kind of guy that writes like a mission statement or like a goal in a diary being like, I'm gonna be a pro skier by the time I'm 21 years old.
Yeah.
But it's in the back of your mind,
For sure.
it's constantly on your head, and you've kind of seems like you've put yourself in these positions or allowed yourself to be in these positions
Yeah.
to
For
get
sure.
to this spot.
Yeah.
So how does that feel when you're like, all right, I have my opportunity? Are you a guy that gets nerves around this sort of thing, or are you like, all right, I'm here, I'm fired up, let's go? Or are you still kind of like, I got to pay my dues still a little bit, and I'm just gonna like observe and be nervous and do the best I can and try not to fuck up?
I mean, I definitely wanted to like send it. Like it's hard to like go out there and not just want to send it, but I also kind of knew that filming with a crew like blank, like it's a team effort, and I kind of wanted to play my part, and I didn't want to like go out there and just leave an impression that I'm a liability,
Get uninvited.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, I was just kind of like following whoever's lead and just doing my best. But I think last year I was a little more just kind of like do what I want to do, and
Because you're a little more comfortable now.
yeah, for sure.
They know that, all right, this guy belongs here.
Yeah, like I just didn't want to be the guy that's out there like getting my sled stuck like every
Nobody
5
does.
minutes,
Nobody
like holding
does.
the crew up. Like I just wanted to be like it's like easy to have out there with people and not a liability, and just that was kind of like initially like I'm gonna get myself in, and then from there I'll.
Did you end up being that guy?
I had my days, but no, I mean, yeah, I had a year prior to going out of just like sledding and being in the backcountry,
Just
and
learning how it
filming,
works,
and
right.
I had a year of like grinding prior to going out with them. So
I think that was important.
Yeah, for sure.
Why?
Like just like understanding, well, one, how to sled.
Which is we've talked about that on the show a lot. Like,
Yeah.
it's I don't think we could ever understate how annoying, not annoying, how frustrating it is to get good at it.
Yeah.
Or to understand it, like it takes so long, and you're like, this is so stupid. Why does it take so long?
Yeah.
Why is it so frustrating? Why is it so difficult?
Yeah, it's a whole
thing.
nother thing.
Like, do you go out without your skis when you first started, just to like learn to sled?
No, I learned to sled in ski boots. I only wear my ski boots when I go out.
Have you ever been in like nice shoes and been like, what?
I did once, and it was like, I don't know, it was weird. Like
I have so much more control of this thing.
it wasn't even like that. It was like I had somewhat like the ankle mobility, almost like, I don't know, I'm like used to like just leaning into my boot. It was like more muscle, like it was more engagement or something. I don't know. I kind of just like wearing my ski boots, to be honest. But
Fair enough. So like you're going through kind of the process, and in your whole mind, was it just like, maybe you don't have the end goal in mind, but is it, what you're doing while you were doing it? You're like, I'm gonna get better at this, and then when my time comes, I'll be able to.
yeah, so I was filming like a bit of a series with a buddy. We did like a 4-part series.
Yeah. What's that called?
It's called Nearly Nowhere.
Is it on YouTube?
It's on YouTube, I believe, and on Facebook. Helly Hansen funded most of that.
Yeah.
So
Who's the buddy?
Simon Hillis.
Simon Hillis.
Yeah.
Oh, he's on the list here too. All right, I'll get to him in a
Yeah,
minute.
yeah. So he was riding for Helly Hansen, and he got some money from them, and I got a bit of money from Head, and that was such a crazy winter because we were just new to sledding. We found a buddy. His name's Sean. We just taught him how to use a camera, and Simon was doubling him everywhere, and just like, yeah, it was his first season filming, my first season on a sled, and we just were grinding so hard. Like, I remember we pitched a tent beside the river in Revy one night and just slept in it.
Just out in the woods, just because you didn't want to drive. You didn't want to drive back, sled back.
Well, we didn't have money for a hotel, so we just slept in a tent on the side of the river.
Oh, not even like while you're out filming, just like dirtbagging it in town.
Well, we were in Revy for a film trip, essentially. We went for 4 days, and we had enough for a hotel for a couple nights. Then we wanted to stay another night, so we just pitched a tent right beside the river, near the sled zone, and just slept in it. And it was pretty loose. None of us really knew what we were doing, but somehow pulled it off. And
are those the best times though?
Yeah, just eating ramen noodles and
figuring it out. Figuring out how it all works. So when you guys were basically figuring it out, and that's how a lot of really good filmmakers, not only ski and bike and sport filmmakers, but Hollywood filmmakers learn their craft is by just doing.
Yeah.
Right. So was it every day you're you'd set up and maybe something would work and maybe it wouldn't work, and you'd be like, oh man, that didn't work out. What do we got to do now? Were you part of that process of being well, maybe the camera should go here. If I'm hitting that jump, maybe you should be down in this zone. What was that learning process like for you guys?
I mean, I've always been filming little videos of myself and just getting buddies who have no experience to film me, and
you just tell them where to stand.
Yeah, I've always just told them I want you standing here, just hit record.
You get the settings pre-set up for them. You're here you go.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I've always just had a little bit of an eye for that because I've watched so many ski movies when I was young, just being so attent to them.
Right.
But
so when you're watching a film, you're oh, I would have shot that from a different angle, or if it was from here, it would have caught the light better, or what are you thinking about when you see something like that, or even when you watch yourself? Yeah,
I'm thinking mostly just what will make the skiing look the coolest. I definitely have less of that eye for what the lighting will be. And
so is it more more of a, are you thinking more of what to do within the trick, or the angle of how you're gonna catch it?
Yeah, depending on what I'm gonna do,
right?
I think I think you should film it from there, because I'll just be positioned better.
And then so when you're skiing into your hit, right?
Yeah.
Or you're into your spot, you're counting down. In your mind, are you cognizant of where the camera is, very and adapting your trick or adapting your run to suit that camera angle?
No, once the camera's there, I'm just
skiing. You're just doing your thing, right?
I'm doing my
You just
thing.
trust that it's right.
Yeah.
You're not micromanaging that shot to the point of all right, this angle needs to be here, and then when I go, I got to make sure my hand is there and not here, because it's not going to cover my face while I'm smiling halfway through the jump.
Definitely not thinking that. But then I go out with Jeff or Scotty, I'm just fully just letting them do their thing. I'm not
right.
I might.
Are you
I might give a little input to Jeff, but
being hey, this is what I think I'm gonna do. Is this work for you?
Yeah, exactly. Being very clear, you do you, because you know what you're doing. But
right.
And I think he appreciates little bits of input, but full. Yeah. I would never tell Jeff to not do what he thinks.
Jeff Thomas, that guy, he's the best at what he's the best.
Yeah.
He's the best.
Yeah,
he's pretty much the best.
Yeah, he's been doing it forever.
Yeah, IF3, I think he had 4 films this year that he worked on, and he had them in before every other person's film.
Yeah,
all 4 of them.
Yeah, he's dialed
in and dialed. He wins awards every year.
Yeah.
So you were talking about being a fan of Poor Boys back in the day, looking up to Dane as a skier.
Yeah.
But then you got Jeffy Thomas with Theory 3 and
everything that he's done.
Yeah.
How's it working with a guy like that? Is it just as like kind of humbling?
Oh, for sure.
But on the other side, because that guy's a career maker.
Yeah, for sure.
You know?
Yeah. And that was like the biggest full circle moment, was just being out in the backcountry building a giant cheese wedge with Jeff and Dane. I was just like, holy.
Oh my God, is this my life right now?
Yeah.
These are my heroes.
Yeah. But yeah, it's cool. Jeff's great at what he does, and it's easy to work with. And
Is he?
Yeah.
Is he one to like impart knowledge?
Oh, for sure.
Is he like a willing mentor, or does he just give you stuff when he needs to?
No, he's very willing. I think he's very knowledgeable as well, and definitely is always gonna speak up if he feels like something's unsafe. So yeah, it's good to have someone like that in the backcountry.
He's the captain when you're out there.
Yeah, and he knows everything. Like, I'm new to this area, and he's filmed everything everywhere. So just follow Jeff, and he hits record, and you'll probably get something good. So
yeah, and
if you don't mess it up, you'll get something.
Yeah. Do you have that pressure on when you're like filming in front of someone like him, or for someone like him? Like, you don't really get some. I've asked you similar questions like over and over. I'm just trying to test like, who is J.R. Rollins?
Yeah.
Jonathan Rollins.
Yeah.
So it's like J.R. Rollins. So it's like Jonathan Rollins.
Well, I think it's just JR, but everyone calls me JR, and then people think that's my name, and then they find out my last name, so they think that it's JR Rollins, but it's just JR.
John Rollins.
Yeah, John Rollins.
It's like IF3 festival. It's like International Free Sports Film Festival.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I might actually just start calling you JRR from now on. Jonathan Rollins.
Yeah.
Rollins squared. So that's really cool. And then so skiing with Jeffy, skiing with Dane, skiing with Blank.
Yeah.
Right. You get a nomination for Breakout Skier of the Year this year, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
And a pretty stacked group of guys.
Yeah. It was super stacked category.
Yeah.
I could make a good argument as to why anyone could have taken that award. So.
Wei Tin, Marcus, Xander, who ended up winning, yourself, and there was one other. Who was the other on that was in there?
I'm not entirely sure.
I'll have to check that up. I'll let you guys know in the end. But like that's cool to me. So, I've been in Whistler for 20 years, and I started when I was like your age.
Yeah.
It was like the movie's like 13, like Poor Boys, and it was like the real Canadian Air Force were like taking off, like right,
yeah.
And it was kind of like Twin Tips had been around for like a handful of years, and it was just starting to take off. Every year was different, was better. The skis are different. The skis were better.
Yeah.
And then that was for about 5 or 6, 7 years, and then for the last better part of a decade, it's been the kind of usual suspects. You know what I mean? Like the same people in the same crews, right?
Right.
The Sage Catabrigas and the Ian McIntoshes.
Yeah.
And you got the Chris Rubins and the, Shane McConkeys back then, or like Cody Townsend's and this. There hasn't been as much turnover with regards to like who you're seeing in like kind of the bigger film companies like TGRs and MSPs and that sort of thing. Like every year it's the same kind of crew.
Yeah.
Right. But I think in the last 2-3 years, I think that the changing of the guard is really starting to happen.
Yeah.
Everybody from like Cole and Cooch to Kai Jones to like Xander, Marcus, Wei Chin, yourself. Like there's a whole new flood of like up and coming, like really, really good skiers, which is exciting to me because it's not the same olds.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've been around for a long time, and there was like a lot of the same actors, the same people, right? When you're good, you get a contract, you're going to get the film parts, you're going to get the attention, and then companies are going to want to work with you again. So that's kind of how it stuck, right?
Yeah, exactly. Once you're solidified in the...
Yeah, once you're in, you're in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with that. It was fun to watch.
Yeah,
let me tell you, right? Like they're there for a reason, and I really enjoyed and I appreciate them for that. But now I'm excited because every every month I'm like, who's this guy?
Yeah.
Who's this person? Or I'll see like an Instagram clip and I'll be like, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
I'm like, how many Instagram followers does this kid have? Oh, 1,500?
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, what did he just do? You know? So it's pretty exciting for me, and I think a lot of people like in the ski industry and like who watch movies and listen to this show, that the ability for you guys to make it to this stage, I think, is a little easier than it was before, because there aren't those limited amount of spots.
Yeah.
Right? There's more companies. Like IF3 had the most movies submitted this year over any ever. Right? It's easier to make a film. You can get the equipment for it. Like the technology is there for it. The editing is maybe a little bit easier. And I think the kids are better skiers now too at a younger age.
Yeah. I think as well as like there's so many people who are just willing to do it for nothing.
Really? Yeah. Kind of like yourself, right? Like,
Yeah.
You're like, I just want to do this.
Yeah. Yeah. For
You're
sure.
like, I just want to ski. So now that you've kind of made it to this level, have you thought about what you got to do to make sure that you can still hold your value? Whereas people aren't just like, because if they know you're just going to do something for free or just do it because you love it, they're going to take advantage of that, right?
Yeah.
But you've gotten to a point now where you're nominated for awards. You've been like movie of the year last year, you know, a couple films this year with the Head Unified Film and blank. So you've kind of like established yourself. You set in some roots, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now, like, have you thought about, you know, what kind of path your career is going to take, or what you need to do in order to have that longevity or to be able to keep doing what you're doing?
I haven't too much, to be honest.
And that's fair.
Definitely like, yeah, I have.
Have you even ever thought about that before? Like, because I know you're still on the climb, right?
Yeah.
Well, in my opinion, like, I think you've at least found that first base camp.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, with lack of a better analogy, but like you've kind of like, all right, I'm here. I'm around like people that I looked up to and are my peers.
Yeah.
I'm in the same films with them.
For sure.
You know, people are starting to know what my name is. Yeah. Jonathan Rollins. Right?
Yeah.
So now this is a stage where you're like, okay, you don't necessarily have to grind quite as hard. You still got to work hard, but now you have the ability to like say, okay, I got a bit of a resume now.
Yeah.
And then maybe it's time to start thinking about, well, what can I do with that resume?
For sure.
Like, how do I use that for my benefit? Like, how do I leverage that with regards to sponsorships or partnerships or new opportunities, right?
For sure. And yeah, I haven't put too much into it. I've just been taking it kind of season by season.
Yep.
Mostly just, yeah, I feel like I have so much more I want to do, and so much.
Like what?
More just.
Nothing specific?
I'm
just
not going to sit on a couch and claim anything, just because then I feel like I'm going to be held to it. But I definitely have you mentioned you didn't think I was much of a person to like write down goals, but I actually just did.
I asked you. I said you don't seem like it.
Yeah.
You didn't correct me.
Yeah, I do have a whiteboard with just kind of goals and things I want to achieve over this season.
Very cool, like a dream vision board. I hate that name, but it is what it is. It's like a dream board or a goals board.
Yeah, and I think you wake up and you see these things every day, like it's gonna subconsciously, like, you know, drive you towards those things.
See, I knew it. I knew there was something. That's what I was trying to get before, because as I was alluding to, it's like you've kind of had this goal and this vision, and you didn't correct me.
Yeah.
I said, you don't seem like the guy. Well, shame on me for assuming anything about that, right? But like, okay, it makes more sense to me now.
Yeah,
it does make more sense to me now. And how often would you like upgrade that? Is it like a constant work in process, or is it like, you know, every once in a while you have a thought, or you'll achieve something, or you'll have an idea and you'll be like, all right, this is what I want? Or is it like beginning of the season where you like sit down and map out your winter?
Yeah, a bit of that, I'd say. Beginning of the season, I wrote everything down last year, but I think it was just kind of like just
a brain dump.
Yeah, brain dump on this whiteboard, and a lot of it was just like these very kind of random or like ultra specific things, whereas now it's like I kind of have like 5 to 10 things,
right,
of like certain things I really want.
Give me a couple examples.
Think like one on there is like a magazine cover.
Right? That's a great goal to have.
And that's like something like I throw that down because it's like I think everyone would love to be on the cover of something, but I think I don't necessarily prioritize like going out with photographers as much, or just like even thinking like, oh, we're going out filming, maybe I should call up a photographer and see if he wants to join along, and just like they're out there just shooting photos while you're filming, and like just small things like that kind of, you know, push you in a direction of, if I'm not taking photos, then I'm definitely not going to be on a cover. But if I'm, you know, thinking that way a little bit and inviting photographers out here and there, it's a lot more likely to happen.
Absolutely. So, good step in the right direction. All right, I like that one. That's a good one. Yeah. And any other ones that you'd want to share? Because also, when you put them out there, and you, like you said, you don't want to be like called out on it, but that's the whole point of it, is like you write them down on a whiteboard. You tell me and thousands of people that are listening, well, then they're not going to judge you for it. You're just going to have to make you that's almost like a kick in the butt for yourself. You're like, all right, I've said this, now I got to back it up. Yeah,
I don't know if I'm going to say some of them on here. But
no, that's fair. You tell me later, man. I'm curious to hear.
Yeah. I mean, another one is just like I want to heli ski this year. I was trying to go last year when I got back from Europe. We had a head team trip to Europe and messed up my knee pretty good. So I had some budget left and was hoping to go heli skiing, and that obviously didn't happen. So
right. It's a tough one though. Yeah. Sometimes I went on. So obviously CMH is the sponsor of the show, and we were gonna go do like a trip with Abe from GoPro, Abe Kislevitz, and like Burke Irving, and Cassidy Jarrell, like who are half pipe skiers.
Yeah.
And Cassidy'd never been in a helicopter before, and like literally the helicopter's spinning, and I think he was sitting in it, and they're like, "No, we can't take off," so because it was too foggy, we weren't able to take off or land. So it was like he was literally like dressed, bird. The things are spinning, and he couldn't go. Yeah, and we ended up just going skiing the hill. I felt so bad for him. He was so pumped at the same time. He was like, "Oh," you're like, you're literally like in the helicopter, and you're no, we can't do it. He's like, "Oh no,
brutal."
You been in a helicopter before?
Yeah.
Just not for skiing?
One time for skiing, but it wasn't. We got bumped up and skied tree laps. It wasn't necessarily the terrain I want to be in.
Yeah, it's still
heli skiing. And it was deep, but yeah, I think I just associate heli skiing with big
AK
style lines, and that's just definitely a goal for me, is ski bigger lines. And
right. And then what's the stepping stone for that? Like getting out into like the Rutherford or up the Pemberton Ice Cap, and then just start there?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much that's just sled accessible. A lot of the heli lines around here are sled accessible.
It's a lot cheaper too.
Yeah, it is a lot cheaper. But if you do have the budget and you can get out for a couple days, you can film a whole segment in 2 days. So
I dig it. So those on this year's, so the heli skiing you said was on this year's. I guess they're both on this year's. So have you done your kind of layout for this season that you think you want to?
I mean, I definitely have goals and ideas. As far as like trips go, there's nothing planned yet.
Just kind of see who comes up with what and where the budget is and that sort of thing.
I think for me, it's just big goal is to just film as much as possible, because no matter what, if I'm getting footage and clips, then it'll end up somewhere. But,
right, you getting your job done, right?
Yeah,
even if it's B-roll and you got something for Instagram.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I think it's
So speaking of Instagram, you invented a trick this past year that was unintentional, from what I heard. And I've been asked to ask you if you've come up with a name for it yet. So why don't you tell us the story of what happened and where you were?
So we were out Brandywine. And
which is a sled zone just south of Whistler.
Yeah. And we went up to shoot the form step down. So that was kind of like the whole goal of the day. And there was like kind of a funny story that went along with just the form step down as well. But
this is a good place to tell it.
yeah, okay, I'll start with that. So we go up there. It's me and ABM, and I just wanted to hit it like that. I'd been up like a week before and like stood on it, and it was super foggy, and obviously couldn't hit it. So a week later, it had kind of reset a little bit, and it was like good light. And I told ABM, I was like, well, "This is like we're going here," like
Yeah.
because I think he was kind of like, "Yeah, we can check it out."
You're
and
like, it's
see."
on my whiteboard, dude.
Yeah, literally. So I was like, this is where we're going. Like, and he's like, okay, like, sure.
Right.
And so we get up there, and it's a pretty classic snowboard jump spot.
Right.
And I had, like, when I was there a week before, there was, like, the lip was kind of built.
Yeah.
But it had clearly just been blown in, and, like, it was unhittable as is. And,
Right. So you had to go and, like, shape it a little bit?
Yeah, so we showed up, and we spent probably an hour and a half. Like, we were in the parking lot at dark. And, like, in the dark, like, got up there, like, as lights kind of starting to show. And we spent, like, an hour and a half, me and ABM, just, like, building this lip and running and getting ready to hit it. And a crew of snowboarders showed up. And they were basically trying to say that they had half built the jump the day before and that they wanted to hit it. And I know they were lying because that's exactly what I would have said if I had showed up and they were there. and it was clearly just wind blown in. Like, I know they hadn't worked on it, but they were super frustrated and clearly wanted to hit it. And
you're like, we just spent an hour and a half.
Yeah,
on this
like,
thing,
I was kind of sitting there, like, I guess a little sheepish. And ABM basically just, they're trying to, like, tell us, like, let's rock, paper, scissors for it, like, all this stuff. And ABM just looks at him and goes, look, we were here, like, in the parking lot, in the dark. We just built this thing.
Yeah.
And he goes, I'll tell you what, JR's going to hit it first, and he's going to lace it, and then I'll hit it second, and I'll lace it, and then you guys will have this nice jump built for you with only 2 tracks in the landing. And they were basically like, yeah, like, in a perfect world, that's what we all want to do. And then we proceeded to both lace it. First hit.
Yes.
And
him, and then so.
And then we watched.
Did it get down to the point where they're just like, you can't, like, they know that you have the upper hand in this one? Like,
yeah.
Gentlemen's backcountry etiquette. Like, they could, like, obviously have the discussion, but you guys were there early. You have the right of way.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of how it works. Like, we weren't just going to give it up. So.
Yeah.
And so
you laced it. You go first?
I went first.
So exactly what ABM predicted.
Yeah, and then he went and he laced it, and then we watched them tomahawk down that landing for 2 hours after us. So. I think they landed 1 or 2 things, but yeah, and then some sledders showed up after and also hit it. So.
Oh, sick!
Yeah, it was a tri-sport day.
That's amazing.
Step down.
But how good must that have felt after with beers with ABM afterwards? Being like, God, dude.
Yeah, I mean. That was crazy, hitting that. And then I thought that was like, okay, we came up here, like, we got the day done. Like, that was like the main objective.
Did you film it?
The
first 2 hits, or is it just for yourselves?
Oh no, that was those were both in the Blank movie.
Oh,
and
sweet.
The Head movie. Yeah.
Was Scotty there? Who was filming that?
No, it was my buddy Joey Kraft came out.
Joey.
So he was there.
Yeah, Joey. Shout out Joey.
Yeah, shout out to Joey. And Cam Keith.
Right on.
Yeah.
Joey won Amateur Film of the Year this year.
Yeah,
and had Amateur Skier of the Year in his film.
Yeah.
Like, Joey filmed a little commercial for me.
Yeah, he's killing it.
Yeah, Joey's the man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm hoping to film lots with him this year.
I think if you're good, Joey. See, I like this partnership too.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you guys will be like the next, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, sorry. So you get the clips. They worked out.
Clips like probably what I thought was like my ender shot. Like, I was like, wow, that's like, I'm stoked. Like,
right.
Yeah. So we kind of just we're up there and it's like early in the day, and ABM decides like, oh, let's go build a jump over here, and we kind of just start building this jump, and it wasn't a great jump. It was like pretty kicky.
Not as good as the forearm step down.
Yeah, and it was like pretty kicky, and it had like a hole before it, and ABM wanted to do like a switch bio 9, so he wanted like lots of pop on it, and
Right.
I kind of didn't really know what I was gonna do. I was pretty satisfied. Like I didn't really think
Like, I'm good. My day's done. Yeah. Like,
and
sweet.
So I hit it once, and I did like a switch 5, but it was basically just like a switch 180 to laid out backflip. And my buddy Anders, who was out there, my sled was broken this day, so I had a buddy, my roommate at the time, he was doubling me around, and he comes on the radio and he just goes, "You should just do a switch dub 9." And I was like, all right, like sure. I had been like doing a momentum that summer, so I thought like it was a goal to do one in the backcountry.
On the whiteboard.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
On the whiteboard.
sweet.
So took like 10 steps higher than the last one and dropped in, and just that lip was so kicky, and I was not patient enough. I just kind of like set it and hooked my tips on the lip, and I guess it was like a switch 450, and then in the air I looked down the landing and was like, oh man, like this is not going well. And then I basically just like kind of tucked back in, and it felt like a switch front flip, and then I just landed it and rode out. I remember just like looking back at Joey, and Joey's just like standing there like,
What did you just do?
And I'm just like, I don't know. Like, yeah, that was crazy. So
do you have a name for it? Because I talked to
initially, I said it's the J roll.
The J roll.
But I don't know.
Is it the JR roll?
No, just the J roll. JR roll.
The J roll?
The JRR roll. Yeah, no. I don't know. I haven't named it. There's a lot of comments on the Instagram post saying the Shedsauce flip, which I thought was funny because it's pretty similar to first time playing Shedsauce. If you've ever played that, you just
smash
keys,
buttons, yeah,
hitting
smash
keys on the
buttons.
computer, and it's so like physics is like out the window on that game, and it's just like so weird. And I was like, yeah, it's pretty much the Shedsauce flip. So.
Do you think it's possible to like replicate it? Do you think that's you think you'd be able to do it? Maybe into an airbag to like first you'd have to probably figure out exactly what the hell it was that you did.
Well, I don't know. It's weird. I've done switch 5s like when I was younger that were like that, just being not patient. You basically kind of just spin a bit and then come back to switch. So it's not something that I think anyone would try intentionally. But
And is it like also like a circumstance of like you said, the way the lip or the way the jump pops you off of there?
Yeah, to be like, thinking back on it, the fact that I rode out is just insane. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it could be done again.
Do you think that was like one of the moments where people started to learn who you were?
I mean, it's definitely like you watch that and you have to watch that trick like a lot of times to like process what's going on.
And this is coming from the guy who did it.
Yeah, like I even watch it. I've watched it so many times, and I'm still like, it doesn't really make any sense. Because you see people doing like pretzel flips nowadays, but they're like usually pretty laid out, and it's kind of like a cat twist midair. Whereas this one, it's just like, I don't know, I just didn't flail at all, and I'm just like fairly composed and just start spinning one way and then I'm spinning the other way. So that's a weird one.
It's like midway you're like, oh, this isn't gonna work. Like what do
I
do?
I knew I was gonna make it to my feet. That's the thing, is I looked down the landing and I saw the landing and I was like, okay, land on your feet. And it just felt more natural to like kind of tuck my shoulder and try to go to switch versus like fighting against the fighting it and trying to go to forward. So.
Some solid air awareness right there, my man.
Yeah.
Did you do any like gymnastics or anything when you were a kid, or is it just like a natural skill for you?
Just I had a trampoline growing up.
There it is.
Yeah. I spent a decent amount of time at the air house in Squamish just working on things. And
right on.
Cliff diving in the summer.
Right on.
Yeah.
And did you guys, so Rossland didn't have a park, did they?
A small park. They used to have, when I was really young, they used to have more of a park, but it was like the most like ghetto-ly built jumps, just like super sketchy. And now it's definitely like it's small. It's very small. It's got like a jump. You could do like a 720 at most if you're really cranking it, and then lots of rails.
So one of the things that popped in my head while I asked that question, I'm thinking at like the crew at like Whitewater, like looking at the Cooch and his brother, and like there's a handful of other girls and guys that just shred there. No park. And like you look at some of Cooch's first stuff, and he's lacing like 720s like through the trees into like a mogul lead zone, and he snipes a landing and he's out. And it's like, how the hell did they learn how to do that? And it's through stuff like that. Like, there's so many good skiers from Rollins, so many good skiers from like Nelson, Fernie, right? These places where it's just these kids are just figuring out. Watching these films on TV of like people boosting, that they get a lot of this knowledge from ski and park, and they want to do it. But there's no park, so they're like, all right, where's the biggest cat track lit that we can launch off of, right?
Going and building a jump into POW, because it's funny, like a lot of people from Whitewater and Red, like they're scared of big park jumps because it's not POW. It's like, oh, if I land on my back, it's gonna hurt. Even though it's like they're way safer. Like if you hit a park jump right, the angle of the landing is like fairly low impact if you're not going to the bottom, and the jumps they're properly built versus just like you and a few buddies stacking blocks with an Avi shovel and just trying things and hoping it works. But
so thinking about that, now that you live in Whistler, obviously one of the best parks in the world. First of all, we'll get to which question do I want to ask first. When you got here, were you like, when you first got to the park, was that kind of the opinion that, or like the vibe that you had? You're like, holy shit, like, or were you like, oh, this is awesome, and I'm into this?
Well, I'd been coming to and skiing Momentum, so I kind of knew.
Were you a camper?
No, but I had like I've been up there, like I was up there before COVID even happened, so
right.
And I think that was initially like what shocked me is like seeing a big park jump and just like how fast you go into it,
right?
Because I think I was just used to having these jumps that you didn't need like a lot of speed, and they were kind of just on the edge of a knuckle, and you just float down the landing.
Where now you got to boost over a 60-foot table or like a 90-foot table.
It's crazy going into something that fast. Like, I remember just thinking like, I'm gonna go to flat, and then like barely making it, and being like, whoa.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you have any like knuckle issues or flat issues? You were like, oh, I really should have gone a lot farther.
No, not too much. It's pretty good there. There's like a spot you go from, and there's just, you can see all the tracks in the slush where you make your S carve in and hit it. So
right.
It's pretty fail safe.
Now, do you attribute like the skiing, like working Momentum and being able to hit those jumps and like being able to ski, Blackcomb Park now more regularly as like a big kind of step forward for your backcountry riding?
Not necessarily. All the other diggers at Momentum say that I had absolutely no style before working there. So the head digger Connor Broderick, he'll take credit for my style. Which,
how so?
I think he straight up told me, he was like,
"You look like
a kook. Stop skiing like that. Like, we're gonna put you through training camp here." And he would just like, I would do something and get a clip, and I'd be stoked on it, and I'd show him, and he'd be like, "No, keep your hand over here," and I'd be like, "Oh, okay."
And you just go do it again and like keep your hand down until you get
become
to that
more
spot.
conscious.
Really?
Yeah. So he was. Yeah.
She had to go through style boot camp.
Yeah, style boot camp with Connor Broderick.
For real? Wow. Yeah. And do you still like what? Like from what I've learned of you, you're pretty open to like learning and adapting.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But were you just like, nah, man, like you're crazy, or were you looking at it and you're like, oh yeah, that does look kind of goofy?
I think.
Like, were you offended? Maybe that's the question I'm asking. Were you offended?
No, I wasn't offended because, I mean, yeah, I wasn't offended. No, I'm always looking to look better on skis.
Right.
Yeah, working on style is always something I'm
And
keen to do. But
do you feel like you have established your own personal, like, are you happy with the way you're skiing now? Like, I guess it's hard to really establish a style. You just have to, like, eliminate the flails and just figure things out a little bit. Are you happy with the way your skiing, I guess, looks right now?
yeah, I'm happy with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say so. When I was like a few years ago, 5-ish plus years ago, I just wanted to ski like Candide.
Yeah.
Just like his
Don't we all?
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, there's little things from different people that I like try to mix into my style, but keep it fresh.
Who are some of your, other than Candide, who are some of your, like, inspirations for that?
I mean, obviously Dane's one of them. He's just he's so light on his feet and just smooth and like, yeah, so composed. Certain things that Sammy does, or obviously he's kind of a style god. So
Yep.
Even homies like Cole Richardson, he's got a dope style, and
Yeah, he was his name was in the back of my head just now. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, sweet.
so definitely, and love watching him ski. It's kind of a mix of everything.
So you still find a lot of inspiration with people that you ride with, because it's like, it sounds like growing up, inspiration was big for you, being able to observe and what is that guy doing? What can I learn from this person? And it still goes now.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, anyone. It could be some random dude in the park that
You're sitting on the cat skinner and you're like, what is that?
you literally watch someone do something, you're like, that was sick. Like, I want to do that. Like,
Right.
it's just, if it looks good, then can pull inspiration from it. So
I dig it. So you had mentioned your buddy Simon Hillis.
yeah, shout out Simon.
He's your roommate right now. You
Yeah.
guys grew up in Rossland together.
Yeah.
He was in the TGR film this year.
Yeah.
So what made you guys, like, did you guys move out here together? What made you decide to move out to the West Coast?
No, I've been out here for like a year. He kind of came out a bit in the summer, I guess. He came out here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think just he was based in Rossland again last year, but I think every time he was going out filming, he was going down to the States to shoot with TGR or
Right.
whatever. And I kind of mentioned to him, like, dude, like, it's just so good out here. Like, you get so much more opportunity to just get out on the sled and film. And like, we obviously just have good chemistry, like doubling on the sleds, like filming.
You guys have been buddies since you were like kids, weren't you?
Yeah, I think there was definitely a friendly rivalry when we were younger.
Right.
But I think when we did that series, we both were just like, we can just team up and it's gonna benefit us both so much.
Right.
And
Was that an actual conversation, or is that like a realization? Like when you're driving?
I think we might have had a conversation like that, but I think it was both like, we were kind of sitting there and there's not like a whole lot going on in Rossland. There's not many filmers. Like, there's
Right.
like, and we were kind of both just like, we're both trying to do the same thing. Like, we should probably just team up and like make something happen.
Yeah.
Cause like, so, and that's like where we kind of really, like, we were always friends, but that's like where we really became friends, is just like that winter, like hanging out all the time, like filming each other. So,
Do you guys have plans for something this winter moving forward? Like, you're obviously working with two different. You don't have similar sponsors at the moment. He's
Yeah.
with TGR. You've been doing stuff with the Blank crew.
yeah.
But are you gonna be able to figure out some common ground? Are you guys gonna try and put a project together? Or what's the plan?
I don't think necessarily a project or anything, but it's definitely like mutually beneficial for us to just go out and, film.
Right.
Like, he's got such a good camera setup and super good with it. And
Oh, so you just want him to come and film you?
no, well, he definitely does more of that doing the settings and then giving it to me.
Just like we talked about earlier.
Yeah, but we like filmed like we filmed each other lots, like we made a full POW skiing video, and it's just all follow cam stuff, like handheld, just skiing beside each other, like,
right.
Yeah, and like we both have a creative side and have input into things like that. He just knows more about the camera as far as the technical specs go.
Something to learn. Maybe that's something you guys could aim for, like this winter too. Like you look at Sammy, he put out his film this year, which is amazing, as they all are.
Yeah.
But he also, like, just before that, released his own POV edit.
Yeah.
Right. So maybe you guys can do something cool like that and just kind of release something smaller. Like there's just so many opportunities.
Yeah, and even if it's just us going out to,
right.
film and then it goes on Instagram, like whatever it is. So.
Film something cool and then, post some shenanigans, cuts in between the ski cuts or something like that. Like,
and I think we've already even talked about it. It's like, wow, we're living in this like crazy house and we have this opportunity. Like we should probably like take advantage of it.
Why is it a crazy house?
It's just it's new. It's 2 years old, and it just
the house itself is like impressive.
Yeah, like we don't know how we ended up in it.
I thought you were like the people that live in your house, like your roommates.
Oh no, yeah, it's a dialed house, but the house is just like we all don't know how we ended up in it because it's too nice for us. So yeah,
well, apparently not, man. It's like one of those fake it till you make it kind of things. You know what I mean?
Exactly. But I don't know. They're gonna put that house on the market in 6 months, and if we have to move out, it'll be a sad day.
You got a preemptive strike. You're like, hey, you guys are selling the place. We'd really like to stay.
Yeah.
If you think we're good tenants, we'd really appreciate it if you put in a word to the new landlords.
Yeah, for sure.
Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Which they've already said they'll do. So
nice.
Yeah.
Nice. But you also at the same rent.
Yeah. Don't jack the rent on us.
So like, with the attitude in like Rossland about Whistler, like Whistler a lot has been known as like like going to Whistler, and like there's like negativity towards it because it's like Hollywood, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, you're leaving here to go to Whistler, like what's your deal? But everyone that comes out here that wants to be in the ski industry is like, oh yeah, that's the right call.
Yeah, for sure.
Were you like that at all before you left?
No, not really.
No.
You're
like, I can't wait to get out of this town.
Well, not so much that, but I had been like coming to Whistler and like kept saying like, oh, I'm gonna move to Whistler, and I wanted to, like, I knew there's just so much going on out here, and I definitely had a lot of friends who were like, why would you go to Whistler, like it's so busy and like all this stuff. And I was like, well, because you haven't been out there. And I think after my first year at Momentum and like just like meeting so many people and having like so many friends out here,
and it's the vibe and the culture, right? Like back in Rossland, obviously there's Dane, but like it's like you and Simon and maybe a couple other buddies.
Yeah.
Where it's like 2 or 3 people that are really into what you're doing.
Yeah.
Whereas out here, there are so many people that are getting after it and are trying to make their way and are just trying to be creative and go skiing and same mindset, right? Yeah. Same age group.
Yeah. And slowly I have a bunch of friends who are starting to move out here.
Yeah.
And all being like, well,
you like
they come out to visit and they're like, oh man, I have to move to Whistler. Like it's like once you can have your friends come out and crash on your couch and introduce them to like everyone versus just like when you go on a trip to Whistler and you're essentially a tourist and you don't really know anybody. Like,
right. You're like the Pied Piper.
You definitely gotta meet people and like kind of know people and establish some friends and
get plugged in.
Yeah, like become a part of the community versus just visiting it. So
awesome. Well, what do you have any specific plans other than like whiteboard goals like that are set up, things that we can pay attention to, or should we just keep an eye on your socials?
I think just keep an eye on the socials.
Yeah.
There'll be something that comes out. I'm not sure what it is yet exactly.
'Cause it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, so
do you have some plans, like ideas of things you want to accomplish, like trips or missions or specific hits or jumps or anything?
Not necessarily.
A lot of loose stuff, waiting to see
exactly.
Waiting to see how the cards get dealt.
I don't want to get too obsessed over like certain specific things because if you're it kind of closes you off, and I think it's good to just have an open mind and let things kind of come to you naturally, and just.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, where can they find you?
On Instagram at jrollins01.
Is there a dot in there at all, or just
no? Just
J
Rollins.
It's not J.R. Rollins. It's just J Rollins.
Just jrollins01.
Is it just Instagram? Or are you on the TikTok or any of the other things?
Yeah, no, not really on TikTok. I should probably do that. I'm pretty bad with social media.
Do you know what
It's one thing I'm trying to get a little better at. But
I just started posting reels on the TikTok.
Yeah.
But it's just the exact same shit I put on Instagram. It's
Right.
like some people will look at Instagram, some people look at, just the exact same thing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, I should probably get on it. But
Yeah, right. Just cut and paste.
yeah, yeah, it's so easy. It's
right.
Literally just one more upload.
Right on. Well, thanks for coming by, man.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm stoked to get to know you. I'm pumped to see what you're gonna do this winter, and maybe we'll get out and do some shredding.
For
Do
sure.
you have a pass?
I will. I need to buy that. I'm gonna buy that today.
Yeah, you better get on it quick
Yeah.
before they're not available. Because I don't think $299 for a day ticket's really gonna fly.
No.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. I don't got that in the budget.
No. All right, dude. Thanks, man.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
You've been listening to the Low Pressure Podcast, the podcast for skiers. This has been a Redmark Media production.